Well, the latest attempt to go after parental rights is happening now in Colorado. That is where proposed legislation could brand parents as child abusers if they don't capitulate to their child's insistence on identifying as transgender.
A Wall Street Journal opinion piece entitled Colorado's Totalitarian Transgenderism Bill reads in part, quote, the Colorado bill would invert the parent-child relationship by granting children authority over their parents. Minors would have the legal power to determine their name, their pronouns by which others refer to them, compelling their parents to conform under threat of legal consequence. Children could report their parents to state authorities, a hallmark of totalitarian regimes, end quote. That article was co-authored by Erin, the executive director of Protect Kids Colorado, and a Colorado mother, also co-authored by Erin Friday, president of Our Duty USA, and a California mother, also an attorney. Thank you both for being on. So Erin from Colorado, again, co-authoring that. I want to start with you. Talk to us about, for those that don't live in Colorado, may not be familiar with this story. I mean, that's pretty scary stuff when you're talking about reversing the role of the parent and the child.
Yeah, well, Erin and I both actually are mothers of little girls who believed that they were born in the wrong body, that they were actually the opposite sex. And we were able to love and guide them through that confusion, and now they've come out on the other side. So it's terrifying to think that this bill would label not affirming your child's mental health distress over their sex, or misgendering, or dead naming, they call it, which is calling your child by their birth name. This law would label us as child abusers for lovingly guiding our daughters through their confusion. And so it's terrifying to think that, parents in custody situations, the parents that are not affirming, this gives courts the license to remove custody or remove their custody rights. But it also opens the door for parents like us, two loving parent households, to have our children forcibly removed by the state if we're not willing to go along with their gender confusion and call them by a different name.
It's just wild what's being proposed right now. This involvement from the state, people outside the home are trying to get involved with what's going on. I'm sorry you both had to go through that. I'm sure it was very difficult, but it sounds like you really made it through stronger on the other side. Let's take a closer look at the legislation and actually see the wording on it here. Again, this is being proposed in Colorado. The bill reads in part, quote, when making child custody decisions and determining the best interest of a child for purposes of parenting time, a court shall consider dead naming, misgendering, or threatening to publish material related to an individual's gender-affirming healthcare services as types of coercive control. A court shall consider reports of coercive control when determining the allocation of parental responsibilities in accordance with the best interest of the child. Erin Friday, do you see this legislation, should it pass, be taken advantage of?
Well, absolutely not. Well, first of all, I do believe that the legislation is violating the 14th Amendment parental rights that has been established for now 100 years of jurisprudence. But states like California and Colorado and a lot of these blue states that are pushing this transgender agenda, they don't really care that that these laws are violating our Constitution. And this law, incidentally, violates the freedom of the press. So this actually allows a child to dictate what the press calls the child. And this isn't age-related. So this is a 5-year-old, 6-year-old can tell the world what they need to be called and how they need to be treated outside of their parents. It flips everything on its head. Both Erin and I had Child Protective Services come to our home because we called our daughters our daughters. And that should be terrifying to every parent in this country, not just those in blue states, but red states also, because Child Protective Services have already been weaponized to look at parents like us, loving parents who believe in biological reality, that we are abusive because we accept our daughters in their perfectly natural bodies. And that's terrifying.
That is terrifying. Miss Lee, there are people watching from states that are not Colorado, California, or blue states, as Ms. Friday put it. And they may be just wrapping their head around this entire thing and wondering if that could even happen to their state or their children. And you talked about your child specifically, Miss Lee. I'm wondering if you can share just a little bit more about that. So you actually fell in that situation. So your daughter thought she was a different gender, and then somehow now she's okay.
Yeah, so she was actually lured into a secret gender and sexuality club at 12 years old in her sixth grade classroom and convinced by outside NGOs that she had been born in the wrong body, that her discomfort with puberty and her awkwardness, and this was 2021, it was the height of COVID, and she was very vulnerable. And so she was absolutely taken advantage of, and she was pushed down this path of irreversible medical harm. She was taught how to pursue puberty blockers, a gender-affirming care letter, how to see a counselor, which is legal in the state of Colorado at age 12 without parent knowledge or consent. And so she was led down this path. And by the time we learned what was happening, it was too late. She had already been captured by this cult-like mentality that there was something wrong with her and that we were not loving parents if we weren't willing to affirm what she was going through. And as Erin said, Child Protective Services was called to my home about 3 days after this club, the secret club meeting, because we weren't willing to go along with it and we did not feel comfortable letting her go back to that school. So to think that 4 years ago, if this law had been in place, my child would have been forcibly removed from my loving care. And I should point out that this is already practice in the state of Colorado and as Erin said, all 50 states, because Child Protective Services has been weaponized. I know a handful of dads who've already lost custody of their children because they were not willing to affirm. And I've spoken to fathers outside of Colorado, Wisconsin, Florida, Texas, whose ex-wives have come here specifically to this state that is a stronghold for transitioning children so that they could transition these men's children against their will.
Wait, what? So
it's terrible.
How did you get? Sorry to stay with you really quickly, but how did you get? How is your daughter today? Does she reflect on this time, and what are her thoughts?
It took about a year to get her out of the mentality that included suicidal ideation because, this impossible pursuit to become the opposite sex made her extremely depressed. But about a year into it, she was able to come out on the other side. She's now what we call a desister. She used to be trans, now she's not, and she did not medicalize her body. And she sees what happened to her. She's even begun speaking out publicly to help others.
Wow.
That's great. Great to emerge and, again, have that family support. Erin, Friday, you think about how Democratic lawmakers sort of describe this happening. First, it's almost as if it's not. There really aren't that many transgender people, athletes, right, competing in women's spaces, so why are you even talking about it? Or no adult is trying to trans a child. Are you crazy? And it sounds like it is actually happening, and we have a testament there from Erin Lee, and it sounds like your family as well.
That's correct. And full disclosure, so I've been a Democrat since I was 18 years old. This is a partisan issue because the Democrats made it that way. If we think back to when Governor Paxton in Texas announced that he found it child abuse to transition your children, and the Democrats lost their mind on that, and they're doing the opposite. So here in California, the supermajority Democrat-run legislature is just pushing this transgender movement through legislation, through laws. We actually had the same law proposed that Colorado is looking at right now, and we were able to stop it at the desk of Gavin Newsom. And he made the pronouncement, which is true, is that it's already happening in our state, so we didn't need to make a law for it. Parents are already losing custody of their children because they refuse to transition them. And it's not just in the divorce situation. Like I said, it's loving parents who believe in biological reality can have CPS show up at their door, and they do. And these children are taught by their school teachers how to call CPS and make a claim against their parents. And this is, we're talking red China here, that parents are being squealed on by their own children, and teachers are encouraging them to do so.
Yeah, and being able to even for the state to imply that a child is able to make a decision, a life-altering decision like that at that age of 12 or younger or even older, but anything under the age of 18, you can't do just about anything else, but you can actually choose to do that and then punish the parents is pretty unreal. And those stories, I mean, that is wild in the way you articulated it so well. We do appreciate that, Erin Lee and Erin Friday. We will follow it, and we'd love to talk to you again. Thank you both.
Thank you.